Well, good morning, Epiphany. It is great to see you. Happy Monday to you. I hope you had a chance to check out what we were doing yesterday, praising God together. Ruth Ann gave a fabulous sermon, and Jose Luis sang an anthem like that just to stir your soul. So if you haven't seen it, go back to YouTube, Epiphany Seattle. I think it was the Palm Sunday service, of course. And if you have seen it, send it on to a friend, right? Let them know what's going on here. It's not quite the same as if we were worshiping together, but we do what we can because it's important we stay connected, right? I mean, as I preached a couple of weeks ago, this is a time when we move in our minds, we move in our hearts from a place of me and it being about me to a place of we. And the germination of that is found right now in how we live together and link together over the internet. We'll come back together, right? Hey, incidentally, Laura Sargent sent out an email to you all, sort of putting you together in neighborhood groups. And it is my encouragement to you that you reach out to some of those neighbors just to say hello. I mean, don't go knocking on their door or anything, right? And if you do go outside, wear your face mask. Mission critical. Everyone's doing it. Super important. Don't forget to wear that face mask. But reach out to your neighbors, right? This is a chance to sort of find out who's living around you from Epiphany Parish. We're all one great big family, but it's nice to know who's within walking distance. Now, all that said, speaking of walking distance, Jesus has taken a very long walk from Judea, heading back to Galilee, going through Samaria. Talked about it on Friday. Fascinating story. It is a great story. Let me say this about the story. We're going to meet Phontini, the Samaritan woman. She became a saint and is well revered in the Orthodox tradition. But she should be in ours as well because she is a super rock star. Anyway, Jacob's Well is where we meet Phontini and Jesus. He's taken a long trip. He's super tired. Well, let me read it. John chapter 4. Here we go. Now, when Jesus learned that the Pharisees, let's skip on. Okay, let's go down here. Okay. Now, when Jesus learned that the Pharisees had heard Jesus is making and baptizing more disciples than John, although it was not Jesus himself, but his disciples who baptized, he left Judea and started to Galilee. But he had to go through Samaria. So he came to a Samaritan city called Sychar, near a plot of ground that Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there. And Jesus was tired out by his journey. Jesus, who was tired out by his journey, was sitting by the well. It was about noon. Now, I love this, right? Because the disciple whom Jesus loved, the author of the Gospel of John, he's right there, right? They got there about noon. He and the other disciples went in to Sychar, and Jesus sat at the well. That's just the facts. That's just the way it was. Looked up at the sun, knew it was noon. Jesus said, you guys go ahead. And he sat at the well. Let's read on. No, let's not quite. I get excited about this, and I don't want to miss making a point. There's a million points. You could write books on just this little pericope here, verse 1 through verse 6. But the Pharisees now are on to Jesus. Jesus is expanding, and that is making them, well, at the very least, curious. Right? So Jesus is on the move. Samaritan woman came to draw water, and Jesus said to her, give me a drink. His disciples had gone to the city to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, how is it that you, a Jew, ask a drink of me, a woman of Samaria? Then it says, Jews do not share things in common with Samaritans. So there's a couple of really interesting things going on here that are important to note. One is that the woman comes at noon. Now, no one comes to get water at noon. Back in the day, first of all, it's too hot, right? And secondly, you need the water to wash up in the morning and do the things to get your family fed and washed and revitalized to go out for a long day's work. So to have somebody come in the middle of the day indicates that there's some issue going on here. In some way, she is an outcast or ostracized or not included in the group of women that would regularly come in the morning. So she comes by herself. Now, that is not only shows that she is outside the the regular patterns of the community, but it also shows that she lives in relative danger because there she is all by herself. No friends, nobody around. Bandits or people with bad intent could harm her in some way. And then she comes and there's a Jew sitting there. So that might have made her a little edgy just to start with. The well's not big. The well's only this big. You know how I know? I've been there. I hope some of you come with me as well to Jacob's Well. It's in Nablus, a most amazing place. There was a monk who lived there and guarded the well. His name was Archimedes, and he was sort of the steward of that, a Greek Orthodox priest. And one day he was killed by some terrorists from the Jewish community that were seeking to build illegal settlements in that part of the world. And he was murdered and his body mutilated right there near the well, and he just had a little covering over it. Well, this priest, Archimandrite, that was his name, sorry, Archimandrite, had a student, Father Latinos. He's about this big, I know because I've met him, and he's about this wide, and his face looks like it was chiseled out of granite. And this guy built a church with his bare hands, a big, beautiful church, and then he painted all the icons in the church. And people tried to kill him, and people tried to stop him. And he buried his mentor right there in the big tomb, and then he built another tomb for himself that's empty. Then he says, the day that I'm murdered, set me in here. But then he built this church, and it is amazing. And you go down underneath the church, and there's the well. And the well's still running. It is the same well, and you put a bucket way down, and you bring it back up, and you drink the water that Jesus and the Samaritan woman drank. We'll talk more about that water tomorrow, because she's talking about the water that I drank. Jesus is talking about the living water that I also hope I've drank. I hope you have as well. Think about places you've gone that have been spiritual and holy. Let your mind wander into those places today, right, as you're sitting around looking out at this beautiful day. Know that I miss seeing you in person. Know that I pray for you and I love you. Peace upon your souls.